Welcome to a deep dive into Indian culture. We're going to be taking a journey through this really diverse and vibrant country. We've got a fantastic source here that dives deep into all kinds of aspects, everything from ancient traditions to modern day India, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited to dig into this with you.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about, it's like a giant mosaic, India,
Yeah.
with so many different pieces all coming together to create something that's truly unique.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really where this concept of unity and diversity comes in,
Hmm.
that our source really emphasizes. But with 1.4 billion people and
Yeah.
22 official languages, and then hundreds of dialects on top of that,
Incredible.
how does that unity actually play out? I mean, what does that look like in day-to-day life?
Well, it's fascinating, how all these different languages and religions and traditions, they don't
Yeah.
actually divide the country,
Yeah.
but they actually serve to enrich it.
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. A Tamil speaker from the south and a Hindi speaker from the north
Hmm.
can still connect over their shared love for, like, a Bollywood film or a
Right.
cricket match.
So it's like these shared cultural experiences, even though they have these very different backgrounds,
Exactly.
that creates that sense of national identity that transcends the differences.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's not to say that those differences aren't important. They are. They contribute
Mhm.
so much to the richness of Indian culture.
Hmm.
Our source mentions, for example, that India has 22 officially recognized languages.
Wow.
But it's not just some random number,
Yeah.
This linguistic diversity is a result of centuries
Hmm.
of like migration and trade and cultural exchange.
Right.
And each of those languages has its own literature and its own music and its own artistic traditions,
Hmm.
adding another layer to the cultural tapestry of India.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about the layers upon layers of history and influence
Right.
that must have shaped that linguistic landscape. I mean, what's that like on a day-to-day basis? Are people regularly switching between languages, depending on who they're talking to?
It's actually pretty common, especially in urban areas where you've got people from all these different linguistic backgrounds coming together.
Right.
So many Indians are actually multilingual,
Hmm.
effortlessly switching between, their mother tongue Hindi as a lingua franca
Wow.
and maybe even English, for business or education.
So they're having these like multi-layered conversations where
Yeah.
they're pulling from different languages all in the same conversation.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's like a constant reminder of that diversity that's present.
Hmm.
Now, our source also talks about India being the birthplace of these major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism.
Right.
But it's not just those, right?
No, it's not just those. You've also got significant populations of Muslims and Christians and Parsis and Jews.
Yeah.
And this religious diversity goes back centuries, with different faiths, not just coexisting, but also influencing each other. Yep. And even creating like unique syncretic traditions, where they're blending together.
That's really interesting. So it's not just tolerance, it's actually a genuine blending
Yeah.
of these different belief systems in certain cases.
Absolutely.
I mean, do any specific examples come to mind?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, take, for example, the Bhakti movement, which is a devotional trend in Hinduism
Okay.
that kind of emerged around the 6th century. And it emphasized like a really personal connection with God,
Hmm.
regardless of your caste or your social status.
Okay.
And this movement was actually influenced by the Sufi tradition in Islam,
Interesting.
which also stressed, personal devotion. And this kind of cross-pollination is a theme you see recurring throughout Indian history and culture.
It's amazing how these different belief systems have found ways to not just coexist, but to actually enrich each other over centuries.
Yeah.
That brings us to a topic that I always love learning about, festivals. Our source describes India's festival scene as a kaleidoscope of colors. I mean, what does that actually look like? Paint us a picture.
Okay, so imagine like streets that are illuminated with thousands of twinkling lights during Diwali, the Festival of Lights. And you've got people dressed in like all these vibrant, colorful clothes. They're exchanging sweets, setting off firecrackers. Or picture Holi, the Festival of Colors, where people are playfully drenching each other
Yeah.
in these brightly colored powders. And it symbolizes like the arrival of spring and the victory of good over evil.
That sounds incredible, but I'm guessing it's more than just the visual spectacle.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Each festival has its own, like, unique rituals and stories and significance.
Right.
For example, during Diwali, people will clean their homes and light lamps, and it symbolizes that victory of good over evil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a time for new beginnings, for letting go of negativity,
Okay.
and for welcoming prosperity.
It's incredible, though, how those traditions bring people together
Yeah.
regardless of background. It really embodies that unity and diversity we were just talking about. And speaking of traditions, we can't forget about like the amazing world of Indian fashion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When you think about Indian clothing, like the graceful sari often comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
This unstitched drape, typically 6 to 9 yards long.
It's amazing.
It can be worn in so many different ways. The fabric, the color, and the style all kind of depend on like the region and the occasion.
Right.
But it's not just about aesthetics, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, the way a sari is draped, even the choice of fabric, the intricate embroidery, it all tells a story
Huh.
about the wearer's cultural identity, maybe their social status,
Wow.
even their personal taste.
It's like wearable self-expression.
Exactly.
What about other traditional garments? Our source mentions salwar kameez, kurtas, and dhotis.
Yeah.
Do they hold similar cultural significance?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The salwar kameez, it's like a tunic worn with loose trousers.
Oh.
It's another popular choice, offers both comfort and style. Kurtas, long shirts that can be worn by both men and women, are known for their versatility.
Mm-hmm.
And the dhoti, which is a rectangular piece of cloth that's draped around the waist,
Okay.
is often associated with, like, tradition and spirituality.
It's amazing how, like, clothing goes beyond just covering the body in India.
Right.
It really is a statement, like a celebration of their heritage and a way of connecting with their roots.
Absolutely.
You know, all this talk about these vibrant colors and these rich traditions is making me hungry.
Oh, well, you're in for a treat then.
Yeah.
Indian cuisine is a true feast for the senses.
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine the aromas of all these freshly ground spices like turmeric and cumin and coriander filling your kitchen. Think about the vibrant colors of dishes like butter chicken, that creamy tomato-based curry.
Oh, yeah.
Or sag paneer, which is a spinach-based dish with these soft cheese cubes.
I mean, I'm already drooling, but Indian food's so much more than just curries, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Each region of India has its own distinct culinary traditions.
Right.
So like in the South, you'll find fiery chetnad chicken bursting with flavors of black pepper, chilies, and coconut. While in the North, you might savor like a rich Rogan Josh, which is a lamb curry that's slow cooked with all these aromatic spices and yogurt.
Oh, wow. So it's incredibly diverse. I mean, and let's not forget about the street food.
Oh, right.
What are like the must-try dishes for somebody that's exploring that scene?
Okay, you definitely can't miss the crispy samosas.
Okay.
Filled with savory potatoes and peas, or dosa, a thin, crispy crepe made from like fermented rice and lentil batter, often served with various chutneys and fillings.
Wow.
And then, of course, there's chat, which is like this explosion of flavors and textures,
Right.
combining like crispy fried dough with tangy chutneys and fresh herbs.
Now I need to go book a trip to India.
Yeah,
I
right.
need to go experience all this. But before we get too distracted by those delicious dishes, let's dive into the world of music and dance in India.
Okay.
Our source describes these as having deep historical and spiritual roots.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes them so unique? What sets them apart?
Well, Indian classical dance forms like Bharatanatyam or Kathak, there's so much more than just visually stunning performances.
Okay.
They're steeped in storytelling and symbolism
Yeah.
and have this really deep connection to spirituality. I mean, every gesture, every expression is imbued with meaning,
Wow.
often drawing inspiration from these ancient epics and mythology.
So it's like you're watching a story unfold through their movement and expression.
Exactly. Like take Bharatanatyam, for example.
Okay.
It originated in the southern state of Tamil Nadu,
Okay.
and it combines like intricate footwork with these really expressive hand gestures
Yeah.
and evocative facial expressions to tell stories from Hindu mythology,
Wow.
conveying emotions like love, devotion, anger, and sorrow.
That sounds captivating. And what about the music that accompanies those dances? Is that equally as rich in tradition?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Indian classical music, it's a complex and sophisticated system, and it's based on ragas.
Yeah.
These are melodic frameworks that evoke like specific emotions or even times of day.
Interesting.
And the use of instruments like the sitar, which is that long-necked lute, and the tabla, that pair of hand drums,
Right.
creates this mesmerizing soundscape
Yeah.
that really complements the intricate movements of the dancers.
So it's a perfect symphony of sound and movement, each element kind of enhancing the other.
Exactly.
But, I mean, while those classical forms are so revered, I'm assuming the music scene doesn't just stop there.
Oh, no, not at all.
Hmm.
India also has a really vibrant contemporary music scene,
Mm-hmm.
drawing inspiration from both its traditional roots and also from global influences.
Okay.
You've got everything from Bollywood film music, which blends Indian classical melodies with, like, Western pop elements,
Right.
to independent artists who are experimenting with, like,
Mm.
fusion and folk genres.
So there's a lot to explore.
Oh, definitely. There's a really diverse and evolving soundscape there.
It's amazing how Indian music balances that tradition and innovation,
Yeah.
and it seems to appeal to both local and global audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of creativity, though, let's shift our focus over to art and craft. Our source talks about just a really dazzling array of traditions, from pottery and textiles to jewelry making and painting styles.
It's incredible.
What are some of the standout features that make Indian art so unique?
Well, Indian art is renowned for its, like, intricate details and its vibrant colors and the symbolic meanings that are often woven into the pieces.
Mm.
Like, for instance, take Madhubani paintings.
Okay.
They originated from the state of Bihar.
Oh, okay.
And these colorful folk paintings, they're traditionally created by women using natural dyes and pigments.
Wow.
And they depict scenes from Hindu mythology and nature and daily life.
They sound incredibly intricate. I mean, what about other traditional art forms?
Well, there's Worli painting, which is another tribal art form, this one from Maharashtra. And it's characterized by its use of simple stick figures and these geometric patterns.
Cool.
Worli art actually reflects the close relationship between the Worli tribe and nature.
Mm-hmm.
And these paintings are traditionally done on mud walls using rice paste and natural pigments.
Yeah.
And they depict scenes from their daily lives and their rituals and their beliefs.
It's amazing how they don't just express creativity, but also serve as like a window into the cultural beliefs and practices
Right.
of these different communities. And I'm guessing that they also play a really important role in supporting livelihoods,
For sure.
especially in those rural areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of these traditional crafts are passed down through generations
Yeah.
within families and communities. So it provides a source of income and also helps to preserve the cultural heritage.
So it's like this beautiful cycle of creativity and tradition and economic empowerment all wrapped into one.
Exactly.
Now, before we move on from this section, out of all the things that we've discussed so far about Indian culture, what has stood out to you the most?
You know, what really fascinates me is how deeply interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
You know, like the language and the religion and the festivals and the clothing, the food, the art.
Oh, connect.
It all weaves together to create this incredibly rich and vibrant tapestry. And it's not just a collection of separate elements,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a living, breathing cultural ecosystem.
That's such a great way to put it, and it makes me even more excited to continue our exploration in part 2.
Absolutely. There's so much more to discover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much more to uncover.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Speaking of peeling back layers, though, our source material mentions the importance of pilgrimage and sacred sites in India.
Right.
We're talking about places like Varanasi, Rishikesh, Tirupati,
Mm.
destinations that draw millions of devotees each year.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, what is it about these places that makes them so significant?
Well, you know, for many people, these pilgrimages are a deeply spiritual journey.
Right.
It's a chance to connect with their faith and seek blessings.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
take Varanasi, for example. It's located on the banks of the sacred Ganges River,
Mm.
and it's considered one of the holiest cities in Hinduism.
Okay.
And pilgrims come from all over the world to bathe in the Ganges,
Wow.
believing that it washes away their sins.
It sounds incredibly powerful. I mean, is it primarily a religious experience, or is there like a cultural aspect to it as well?
Oh, it's definitely both.
Okay.
While the religious aspect is central, these pilgrimages also offer a chance to connect with one's cultural roots,
Mm.
you know, and to participate in these traditions that have been passed down for generations.
Right.
It's like a shared experience that brings people together from all walks of life,
Yeah.
strengthening their sense of community and identity.
It's like a physical manifestation of that unity and diversity concept, people from such different backgrounds coming together for this shared purpose.
Right.
Now, our source also delves into the impact of these Indian epics, like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
Right.
I remember reading snippets of those in school,
Yeah.
but I never fully grasped their significance.
Mhm.
Can you shed some light on why those are considered so important in Indian culture?
Well, you see, these epics are more than just stories.
Right.
They're foundational texts that have shaped moral values and societal norms,
Wow.
and even political thought in India for centuries.
Yeah.
Like the Ramayana, for example, tells the story of Rama, an exiled prince who fights to rescue his kidnapped wife, Sita.
Okay.
It's a tale of courage and duty and righteousness that
Mhm.
continues to resonate with people today.
Yeah, I remember the characters were so vividly portrayed. It was like they each represented like different aspects of human nature.
Exactly, and that's what makes these epics so timeless.
Mm.
They explore those universal themes of love and loss and betrayal and duty and that eternal battle between good and evil. The characters, while mythical, they feel relatable because they grapple with these dilemmas that are relevant to human experience across time and cultures.
Yeah, it's like they hold up a mirror to society, both reflecting and shaping its values and beliefs.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of reflections, let's shift our focus over to another form of storytelling, Indian theater and drama.
Okay.
Our source mentions a vibrant and diverse theatrical landscape.
Yeah.
What are some of the key elements that distinguish Indian theater from other forms of dramatic expression?
Well, Indian theater is known for its rich use of symbolism
Okay.
and stylized movements, and a really close connection to music and dance. Take, for example, Kathakali, which is a classical dance drama form from Kerala.
Okay.
It's characterized by these elaborate costumes and intricate makeup
Yeah.
and highly stylized gestures and expressions.
I've seen pictures of Kathakali performers,
Yeah.
and their makeup is incredible.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's like they transform into these mythical beings.
The makeup and the costumes, they're not just decorative.
Right.
They're actually integral to the storytelling.
Okay.
They help convey the characters' personalities, their emotions, even their supernatural powers.
Wow.
And Kathakali performances often draw inspiration from those Hindu epics and mythology that we were talking about,
Yeah.
bringing these ancient tales to life on stage.
It sounds like a truly immersive experience.
Yeah.
What about modern Indian theater, though?
Yeah.
Has it retained those traditional elements, or has it kind of evolved into something entirely different?
Well, modern Indian theater is incredibly diverse.
Okay.
You have playwrights and directors who are experimenting with contemporary themes and styles, drawing inspiration from both Western theater traditions
Right.
and India's own rich theatrical heritage.
Okay.
But even in these modern productions, you often see a nod to those classical forms,
Yeah.
whether it's through stylized movements or musical elements or the exploration of mythological themes.
So it's like this constant dialogue between tradition and innovation,
Yeah,
with the modern theater building upon those foundations laid by the classical forms.
exactly.
Now, speaking of symbolism, our source highlights certain cultural icons that hold deep meaning in India.
Right.
I'm curious to learn more about these symbols and what they represent.
Well, these symbols, they're woven into the fabric of Indian culture, appearing in art and literature and religious rituals,
Yeah.
and even everyday conversations.
Wow.
Take, for example, the lotus flower.
Okay.
It's a symbol of purity and enlightenment and spiritual growth,
Yeah.
and it's often depicted in Hindu and Buddhist art and
Okay.
literature,
Right.
representing that ability to rise above adversity and attain spiritual awakening.
I remember seeing lotus motifs everywhere when I visited India,
Yeah.
on clothing in temples, even on household items. It's like this constant reminder of those deeper meanings.
Exactly. And then you have the peacock with its vibrant plumage and graceful movements.
Right.
It's a symbol of beauty, pride, and immortality.
Wow.
In Hindu mythology, the peacock is associated with Lord Krishna,
Okay.
and its feathers are often used in religious ceremonies and decorations.
So it's not just about aesthetics. It's
Right.
about that cultural and spiritual significance that's
Yeah.
attached to these symbols.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of traditions that have stood the test of time, let's talk about traditional Indian sports and games.
Okay.
We've already touched upon the nation's passion for cricket,
Right.
but our source mentions these other indigenous sports that are deeply rooted in Indian culture.
Yeah.
What are some examples?
Well, one fascinating sport is kabaddi.
Okay.
It's a contact sport that originated in ancient India,
Okay.
and it's a test of strength and agility and strategy,
Hmm.
with two teams taking turns sending a raider into the opponent's territory to tag as many players as possible before returning to their own side.
It sounds incredibly intense. I mean, is it still popular today?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kabaddi has actually experienced a resurgence in recent years, with professional leagues and international tournaments drawing huge crowds.
Really?
It's a sport that requires both physical prowess and mental sharpness, and it's deeply ingrained in the cultural fabric of India.
It's amazing how these traditional sports continue to thrive
Yeah.
alongside those modern games.
Mm.
Now, speaking of heritage, our source emphasizes the importance of preserving traditional Indian handicrafts.
Right.
We're talking about those exquisite creations like Kashmiri carpets, known for their intricate designs, and
Yeah.
Rajasthani pottery with its vibrant colors and unique patterns.
Beautiful pieces.
What makes these handicrafts so special?
Well, these handicrafts, they're more than just objects.
Yeah.
They're expressions of skill and artistry and cultural heritage that have been passed down through generations.
Right.
Take Kashmiri carpets, for example.
Okay.
They're hand-knotted using traditional techniques
Oh.
with intricate designs that often depict floral motifs and paisley patterns and scenes from nature.
They're incredibly beautiful and detailed. You
Yeah.
know, I can only imagine the amount of time and skill that goes into creating something like that.
Oh yeah, each knot is tied by hand.
Wow.
And it can take months or even years to complete a single carpet.
It's incredible.
The process is incredibly labor-intensive, but the results are breathtaking.
Yeah.
These carpets, they're not just floor coverings.
Right.
They're works of art that embody the rich cultural heritage of Kashmir.
And it's not just about aesthetics, right? There's also that economic aspect to
Yeah.
preserving these traditional crafts.
Absolutely. These handicrafts provide a livelihood for countless skilled artisans across India,
Right.
ensuring that these traditions are passed on to future generations.
Yeah.
And by supporting these crafts, we're not just buying beautiful objects.
Mm-hmm.
We're contributing to the preservation of cultural heritage
Right.
and the economic well-being of these artisan communities.
It's like that beautiful cycle again of
Yeah.
creativity and tradition and economic empowerment all wrapped into one. Now, speaking of empowering traditions, our source highlights the concept of community feasts and langars,
Right.
particularly the Sikh tradition of offering free communal meals to anyone regardless of their background. Can you tell us more about that tradition and its significance?
Well, langar is a central tenet of Sikhism,
Okay.
embodying the values of equality, service, and compassion.
Yeah.
And it's a tradition that dates back to the 15th century,
Wow.
when Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism,
Yeah.
emphasized the importance of sharing and caring for those in need.
It's such a beautiful concept. I mean, so anyone can come to a gurdwara, a Sikh place of worship, and receive a free meal.
Exactly. There's no distinction made based on religion or caste or gender or social status.
Wow.
Everyone is welcome to sit together and share a meal,
Mhm.
fostering that sense of community and equality.
Yeah.
And the food is prepared and served by volunteers,
Okay.
and the entire process is just a testament to that spirit of selfless service.
It's a powerful reminder that food can be that bridge,
Yeah.
that connects people, transcending differences and fostering that sense of shared humanity.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of celebrations that bring people together, let's talk about some of the most visually stunning festivals in India.
Okay.
Holi, the Festival of Colors, and Diwali, the Festival of Lights. What are some of the key traditions and beliefs that are associated with those festivals?
Well, Holi, celebrated in the spring,
Mm-hmm.
is a joyous festival that marks the arrival of new beginnings and the triumph of good over evil.
Okay.
And people celebrate by throwing colored powder and water at each other,
Yeah.
symbolizing the playful and mischievous nature of Krishna, a Hindu deity associated with love and joy.
I've seen pictures of Holi celebrations, and
Yeah.
they look incredibly fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's like everyone becomes a walking canvas covered in these vibrant colors.
Exactly. It's a time for letting go of inhibition, celebrating life,
Mhm.
and strengthening those bonds of friendship and community.
Yeah.
Diwali, on the other hand, is celebrated in the autumn
Okay.
and is known as the Festival of Lights.
Right.
It symbolizes the victory of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, and good over evil.
So it's like a celebration of hope and renewal.
Precisely, people decorate their homes with lights and candles and diyas, these small clay lamps, filled with oil.
Oh.
They also exchange gifts and sweets and firecrackers, creating this festive atmosphere filled with light and joy and celebration.
It sounds truly magical. Now, our source reminds us of the deep respect for nature that's ingrained in Indian culture.
Right.
What are some examples of how that reverence for nature manifests in everyday life and religious practices?
Well, respect for nature is a core value in Hinduism,
Okay.
and it's reflected in various beliefs and practices.
Mm-hmm.
For example, trees like the banyan and the peepal are considered sacred and are often worshipped.
Wow.
The Ganges River, as we mentioned earlier, is revered as a goddess and is believed to have purifying powers.
So it's not just about appreciating the beauty of nature.
Right.
It's about recognizing its sacredness
Yeah.
and that interconnectedness between humans and the natural world.
Yeah, exactly. And this respect for nature is also reflected in traditional Indian practices like Ayurveda,
Mm-hmm.
a holistic system of medicine that emphasizes natural remedies
Right.
and a harmonious balance between mind, body, and spirit.
It's fascinating how these ancient traditions continue to hold relevance in modern times,
Yeah.
offering insights into sustainable living and a holistic approach to well-being. We've talked about how Indian culture has influenced the world in countless ways,
Right.
but I'm curious to hear your perspective on how this influence is evolving
Okay.
and what role the Indian diaspora plays in shaping global perceptions of Indian culture.
Well, the Indian diaspora, spread across the globe, has played a significant role in introducing Indian culture to the world.
Mm-hmm.
From Bollywood films gaining international recognition to yoga studios popping up in every major city.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Indian traditions and practices have become increasingly mainstream.
It's amazing to see how Indian culture has transcended those geographical boundaries
Yeah.
and found a place in that global cultural landscape.
It really has. And it's not just about superficial trends.
Right.
It's about
Wow.
sharing values and stories and perspectives
Yeah.
that enrich the global community.
Mm-hmm.
Indian writers and musicians and artists and entrepreneurs, they're making their mark on the world stage,
Yeah.
contributing to a more diverse and interconnected world.
It's like this beautiful tapestry being woven
Uh-huh.
with threads of Indian culture, intertwining with threads from other cultures,
Yeah.
creating something new and vibrant.
I like that.
Now, our source concludes with this thought-provoking question about the future of Indian culture.
Okay.
As India continues to evolve,
Mm.
embracing technological advancements and globalization,
Right.
how do you see that balance between preserving tradition and embracing modernity playing out?
That's a complex question,
Yeah.
and there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
India is a land of contrasts
Mm-hmm.
where ancient traditions coexist with modern innovations.
Yeah.
It's a country that's rapidly developing, but also deeply rooted in its cultural heritage.
So it's like navigating this delicate dance
Yeah.
between holding on to the past and embracing the future.
Exactly. And I think the key lies in finding ways to integrate tradition and modernity
Okay.
to create a future that honors its heritage while also embracing progress.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding that sweet spot where tradition informs innovation
Yeah.
and where innovation revitalizes tradition.
It's a fascinating challenge and one that I'm sure will continue to shape the cultural landscape of India for generations to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
is there anything else from our source material that you think is worth highlighting?
Yes. There's one final aspect that I find particularly fascinating.
Okay.
The festivals that celebrate knowledge and learning in India.
Oh, wow.
Festivals like Saraswati Puja and Guru Purnima highlight that profound respect for education and wisdom
Yeah.
that's deeply ingrained in Indian culture.
Can you tell us more about those festivals and their significance?
Well, Saraswati Puja honors Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, music, and the arts.
Okay.
And it's a time when students and scholars seek her blessings for academic success and creative inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
They decorate their books and instruments and offer prayers to the goddess,
Wow.
seeking her guidance and wisdom.
It's beautiful how education is given such reverence
Yeah.
and celebrated as a festival.
Mm-hmm.
What about Guru Purnima?
Well, Guru Purnima is a day dedicated to honoring teachers
Okay.
and expressing gratitude for their role in imparting knowledge and guiding students on their path of learning.
Right.
It's a celebration of that sacred bond between guru, teacher, and shisha, student,
Mhm.
recognizing the profound impact that teachers have on shaping lives and shaping the future.
It's such a powerful reminder of the importance of education
Yeah.
and the transformative power of knowledge. It
Okay.
kind of perfectly encapsulates that spirit of continuous learning and growth that we've been exploring throughout this whole deep dive.
It really does. It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But even so, I feel like we've gained a much deeper appreciation for that incredible tapestry of Indian culture.
Absolutely. It's been fascinating to see how religion and spirituality and art and tradition are all so deeply intertwined.
Mm.
And it all comes back to that core concept of unity and diversity, right?
Exactly. It's the ability to embrace a multitude of languages, religions, and customs,
Yeah.
and yet still have this strong sense of shared identity.
Hmm.
It's truly remarkable and something that I think India really has to offer the world,
Right.
especially in today's climate.
I completely agree. It's like this reminder that our differences don't have to divide us.
Right.
They can actually be a source of strength and richness.
Yeah.
And speaking of richness, our source material highlights one final aspect that I found particularly fascinating,
Okay.
the concept of jugad.
Ah, yes, jugad.
I love that word.
It's a Hindi word that roughly translates to ingenious improvisation
Okay.
or finding a workaround. It's that ability to be resourceful, to think outside the box,
Mhm.
and come up with creative solutions, often with limited resources.
It sounds like such a uniquely Indian approach to problem solving,
Hmm.
born out of necessity and honed over centuries.
Exactly. It's a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the Indian people.
Yeah.
You see jugad everywhere in India.
Oh, really?
From street vendors who modify their carts to carry more goods, to engineers who find innovative ways to fix complex machinery with limited tools.
So it's like a reminder that those limitations can sometimes spark creativity and
Right.
ingenuity.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding a way even when the odds seem stacked against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in a way, jugad embodies the spirit of Indian culture,
Okay.
a culture that's constantly evolving, adapting, and finding ways to thrive despite challenges.
That's a beautiful way to sum it up.
Thanks.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Indian culture, what final thought would you leave our listener with?
I think it's this. Indian culture is not a static entity. It's a living, breathing organism that's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So embrace the complexity,
Mm-hmm.
be open to new perspectives, and continue to explore the richness and diversity that India has to offer.
It's a journey that's well worth taking.
Absolutely.
And remember, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we have.
There are countless stories yet to be discovered, flavors yet to be savored, and traditions yet to be experienced. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. Until next time, keep exploring.